I share the concerns that our ranking member laid out. I have never seen FEMA as an organization that the American people are dependent on or that states are dependent on. I've seen FEMA as a partner to states and to localities, and I'm really concerned about what I have heard from Secretary Noem and from the President about eliminating FEMA. I certainly hope that doesn't happen. I am all in on common sense reforms, and frankly, I think there's plenty of room in FEMA for some common sense reforms. I'm not a champion of the status quo at FEMA, and so I look forward to working together on those reforms. But I think the context for my concern about FEMA and some of these obligations being pushed down to the state is because even in Texas, I have seen deficiencies that have impacted my community. I also think the greater context is cuts that are coming to state and local governments at the federal level. I've heard from my local governments, tribal communities, very concerned about potential cuts to Medicaid, nutrition programs. So layering this added responsibility onto localities at such a challenging time for local governments and state governments, that's another area of concern for me. But I will tell you, I have some very specific local questions that I hope to be able to work with you on these issues. The first question is around the UASI funding. And El Paso was relegated to an unfunded status some time ago and had previously enjoyed being able to receive UASI funding. My local government, the local municipality, the city of El Paso, has tried working with FEMA to try to access funds, and they've been unsuccessful. And we'd really love your help in thinking through what needs to happen so that the city of El Paso can once again have access to those funds. We have major land ports of entry. We have a major military installation. There's a number of reasons why why that UASI funding could and should be helpful to the community. So I'm wondering if you can commit to working with us on gaining access once again.
I can't promise an outcome, but I absolutely commit myself, my staff, to working with you and to better understanding your challenges.
Great.
And to help find solutions that make sense and to ensure that you're informed on exactly how rationales are determined. Because if states and cities and jurisdictions are eligible and qualified, we certainly want to ensure that they get the resources necessary.
Great. That would be super helpful. We've seen other communities who were relegated to this status gain access, so we'd like to be one of those success stories. The other pot of funding I'd like to talk to you is the SAFER grants. We have emergency services districts, which are the special districts, firefighters, volunteer firefighters, they're taxing entities as well, but would love your thoughts on how we can help our emergency services districts access some of those SAFER grants.
So I'm a big advocate for the SAFER grants. We have a decision memo that we are hoping to be able to fund many of those programs. Again, that's pending the department approval. And I will tell you, I was formerly the director of emergency medical services at DHS headquarters. I'm also a first responder, former combat medic and paramedic currently. So the care and funding for our first responders is crucial. It's very near and dear to me because I've spent 2 decades as a first responder in some capacity. So I look forward to working with you more, look forward to ensuring that our first responder communities get the appropriate funding they deserve.
Great, thank you. Look forward to that as well. Like my colleagues, I'm concerned about FEMA's recent decision to cancel BRIC funding for previous recipients. Not only is it illegal because this is funding that Congress appropriated, it's also devastating for the communities that applied for this funding and were allocated it for critical projects. It is unfortunate that we're holding this hearing without a full budget, but President Trump has made it clear that he can violate the orders of Congress, which makes me nervous about a number of other programs and grants that our communities rely on. I'm wondering if there are any plans at FEMA to cancel any other programs or funds that have been allocated by Congress.
Excuse me, I thought I was running out of time. So to answer your question on BRIC particularly, we found a lot of inefficiencies with the design of the program itself, which caused us to have serious concern over whether it was the appropriate use of taxpayer funds. There were many projects that were funded that we believed were very wasteful. But there are also projects that were fully funded that we intend to move forward to completion. We're unpacking and analyzing that. Every grant recipient under BRIC should receive some form of notification. And, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, would you like me to continue? I'm going over my time. I want to be respectful of you, sir.
I'll tell you what, Mr. Acting Administrator, thank you for being much more concerned about it than any of my members on this committee. Please continue and finish your answer to Ms. Escobar's question, and feel free to hold a FEMA instruction class out in the hall at the conclusion of this hearing for other members on the committee.
Very good. Well, thank you, sir. I will say that as it pertains towards current grant recipients, we're kind of unpacking them in several different buckets. Those that have obligations that were made. If the projects were ongoing, we intend to continue funding for many of those projects in a systematic review. And again, recipients should be receiving this information here very soon, if not already. That's through our regional offices. There are also a major problem that we found with the BRIC program itself is there are really high unliquidated balances in which work was not moving towards completion or work was stagnating for years, going back to 2020. It was tying up a lot of money within the DRF, and projects were not moving forward in a succinct manner. That was an exceptional problem that we identified. There's a variety of different elements of what we're trying to look at to make sure that the future of mitigation investment is reasonable, and we create financial incentives for states to move faster. But we're also looking at our own regulatory requirements and things we can simplify so that we don't put impediments and barriers in state and localities' way of executing fully on these projects. And I'd love to specifically speak with you about some of the projects in your district, your concerns and evaluations, so that we can ensure that you fully understand from our context things that the administration are going to prioritize for investment. Generally, you're going to be looking at the profile of risk reduction as well as preparedness and or capability building. And so the future of grants at FEMA are going to kind of be profiled that way. And we're working with OMB on some ideas. Before any decisions are made on that, I promise you that we'll be coming to you all to solicit some input and insight so that you can share and collaborate with us, because we do want to create a mechanism that makes the most sense.
I'm out of time, but we will definitely circle back with you on these issues.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Thank you.